Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
Since Ten Hag has come to Manchester United, there has been a different air around the club. Results have been mixed at times, as has the playing style. Despite currently sitting in 5th in the Premier League and not having the greatest goal difference, Ten Hag seems to be the right man to take United forward. So how exactly has Ten Hag transformed Manchester United, and what tactics have been used? Let's take a look. If you're interested, this video and several others usually go up early for early access on Patreon, so if you want to check that out, head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple, and it helps to support the channel. The resurgence has begun with a strong transfer window that has strengthened the first 11. Anthony, Casemiro, Lisandro Martinez and Christian Eriksen are all in the first 11, meaning 40% of the starting outfielders have been turned over. Malacia has also played roughly 40% of the minutes available at left back, with Shaw taking the remaining 60%, whilst there's also much hype around Garnacho. And what is distinct about the Ten Hag era is that it can be split into 3 tactically distinct sections, almost perfectly represented by how much possession United had in each of these phases. The first phase was the idyllic phase, the regrouping phase, and then finally the rebirth. We'll briefly examine his in-possession tactics during this phase, his out-of-possession tactics in this phase, before digging into what now appears to be his long-term tactics. The idyllic phase was made up of pre-season as well as the opening 2 matches of the season against Brighton and Brentford. During this phase, Ten Hag tried to transplant his ideal style and general philosophy from Ajax directly onto the United squad. This meant high possession football and high pressing football, built on the foundation of a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 depending on the situation. The problems with this were abundant, as firstly, De Gea is not a ball-playing goalkeeper despite his recent improvement. And this is a key part of Ten Hag's style. So, when they played out from the back, they were liable to David De Gea playing an errant pass that would immediately have United on the back foot in dangerous positions. To compound matters, during these few games, Ten Hag was experimenting at centre forward, at times pushing Eriksen or Fernandes high up into the position as a false 9, with the main goal of this being increasing the numbers in midfield due to a lack of possession-safe players on the pitch. But the problem was now that when De Gea was forced to go long, there wasn't a genuine aerial target for him to hit. This possession-oriented style of play wasn't helped by the personnel available to Ten Hag, as a pivot is crucial to his style of play. And early on in the season, Fred was the chosen man in this position, and for all his positive qualities, being a consistent metronome around which the team can function, or playing penetrative passes is not his specialty. So with him being tasked with this, the ball could often get stuck in the midfield with a lack of progression, particularly if teams were willing to sit off of United. Alternatively, when teams did look to press, he made for an easier pressing target as he's not particularly press resistant, and having both Eriksen and Fernandes, who are much better on the ball, stuck high up the field at times, did not help matters. In addition, to implement his preferred high pressing style, United had to have a high compact line. But a combination of the side not fully grasping the pressing structures, as well as Maguire, who is not the quickest, being a starting centre back in these 2 matches, made them vulnerable. This phase was a short-lived one, but United did put up their most impressive pressing numbers, but results in competitive environments were immediately poor, losing twice and conceding 6 goals across 2 matches against Brighton and Brentford. Changes had to be made. Ten Hag soon realized that to go forward, he may have to take a couple of steps back. That is, try to find a passive style of play that will get results in the short term, to give him the necessary time to implement his philosophy long term. This new style shows in the possession statistics during the 5-match stretch in the Premier League, where possession was no longer a priority for him. Although the 4-2-3-1 was still the base formation, there were distinct personnel changes, as Malacia came in at left back, Rashford was given a prolonged run in the centre forward position, Eriksen was moved deeper into the double pivot alongside McTominay. By giving up the ball, United focused more on the defensive end of things, and rather than starting from a high block, which would leave a lot of space for the non-sweeping De Gea to cover, United would start in a fairly compact mid-block. They were generally content to allow opposition to have the ball in deep phases, where their possession would be ticking up. However, there would be limited progression for the opponents due to United cutting off the passing lanes. This would be helped by Rashford pushing up onto one centre-back, whilst a winger, for example Sancho, would press up onto the second centre-back. And crucially, with Sancho coming in to help, United would have to control the position of the ball, as sloppy pressing would allow a fullback to easily receive in space and progress to create a 2 versus 1. So this was done by Rashford first directing play to one side of the pitch before the far side winger then joined. Crucially, Rashford would have to keep up the pressure so that the centre-back on the ball wouldn't have enough time to line up a pass into the fullback and cause problems. Having a winger rather than a midfielder push up alongside Rashford to create a 2-man press meant that United would always have at least 3 midfielders, making them extremely hard to overload centrally, whilst making it easier to man-mark the crucial deep pivot for most teams. In their own third, United would drop into the deep block, and now the focus would be less on pressing the ball proactively, but instead covering the passing lanes and keeping the space between the lines so compact that it was much harder for teams to get on the ball in space in these regions. And because they sat so deep, teams would slowly be committing more and more men to the attack, hoping to get an overload high up. But this would leave gaps in the defense, and here the pace of Rashford, combined with the improved passing range of Eriksen, who was deep, saw United become a force on the counter-attack. Even in possession, the biggest difference was the behaviour of De Gea, who no longer had to try and play short, intricate passes and could instead go longer as he was accustomed to. In fact, compared to the idyllic phase, De Gea's average long goal kicks went up from 1 per game to 4.8, whilst his average kick length went from 26 meters to 40.5. Statistically, in this first phase, they averaged an expected goal difference of minus 0.35 per match. And during this regrouping phase, despite facing tougher opposition like Liverpool, Arsenal and City, their expected goal difference got better, moving to minus 0.06 per game, and even that was heavily swayed by conceding 3.2 xG in one match against City. Now with the ship stabilized, Ten Hag could move forward. The starting 11 shifted once again, with Luke Shaw now cementing himself as the first choice, Casemiro now fully integrated into the first 11, and Antony laying claim to the right-hand side, whilst we've also seen more of Ronaldo. So far, this phase has been about finding a combination of attractive long-term football while still getting results. Their possession during this phase has risen again, but not as high as the idyllic phase. And starting from De Gea, his ability with the ball at his feet has come on leaps and bounds under Ten Hag. It may not be at the level of a Neuer or an Ederson, but this improvement means that at times the side can be more confident in beginning shorter, and in fact his average kick length has come down again in this latest phase. And the base formation that Ten Hag has used is a 3-1-6 that has many different variations for different situations. At times, we see Luke Shaw from left back stay deeper to begin the play, as most teams will tend to protect the centre. And Luke Shaw is vital in all phases for Ten Hag, as from these positions Shaw is able to progress the ball if he is under less pressure, and get the ball into the midfield regions. In fact, Shaw has the most touches, passes, and passes into the final third for the side. Alternatively, this initial 3 can be formed by Casemiro dropping into the backline, and Eriksen dropping into the midfield, although at times Eriksen will drop even deeper. And speaking of Casemiro, he has provided a solid platform on which to build. As discussed, the pivot is often the key man for Ten Hag, and earlier on in the season, Fred and McTominay did not have the ability to perform the role, and that often saw Eriksen having to operate much deeper when in possession, potentially meaning one man less higher up the pitch. But Casemiro is good enough on the ball in these phases to allow United to have 2 great playmakers in Eriksen and Fernandes between the lines. A more functional pivot in the past also made it less efficient when a fullback was inverting into the midfield to take on the progression responsibility, as a Fred and Dalot combination, for example, could find it tough to break the lines, but Casemiro's ability on the ball allows United to take this chance. And the tactical intelligence the players have shown is proof that Ten Hag's methodologies are setting in. Although Shaw can invert at times, Dalot is more often seen starting centrally. This allows Antony to be in more isolated situations, 1 versus 1 against a fullback, which is ideal for him, and this willingness to take a man on has provided a new dynamic. But rather than dictating the game from here, like other inverted fullbacks, Dalot is more dynamic, and as soon as Antony receives, Dalot looks to support, either in the half space or even overlapping to draw in a fullback and allow Antony to cut in and unleash a shot. But one of the major reasons Ten Hag opts for this shape is the sheer numbers between the lines that it affords the sides. It is difficult for sides to cover the passing lanes when facing a front six, and the line breaking ability of Martinez, Casemiro, or an Eriksen means that these men can often be found. And due to their close proximity, they can quickly exchange combination passes and wall passes from their staggered positions, and then get many men into the box to create shooting opportunities. It also means that apart from the pivot, the midfielders can be much bigger offensive threats, best exemplified by Fred, who has thrived as a free 8 attacking the box when he has played in recent matches. And even defensively, in this new phase, United are more aggressive. With Maguire not in the side, the backline naturally has more pace and can afford to push higher up as they have more ability to recover. And the Varane-Martinez partnership has worked well. Martinez is highly aggressive, so he is often tasked to follow the dropping centre forward so that they never have the room to turn. This is supported by the pacey and physical Varane, who can then cover the remaining room, making them hard to play over. In this new phase, United's expected goal difference per match has improved to an average of 0.2, continuing the positive trend. The Ten Hag era is still young, but there's plenty of promise for United fans. But what do you make of Ten Hag's tactics? Drop it down below.